Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at an article from CNBC written by Peter Q.W. Chung. It was published on August 23rd. How Brazil stole the production of orange juice from Florida. Now, I mean, this comes into, they have it under food and beverage, but this also is like a trade thing. It's kind of a globalism thing. I mean, there's a lot of different factors to this, more than the, food and beverage trade situation. More than 50% of all orange juice bottled by major companies like Tropicana is supplied by a Brazilian company. In 2017, this OJ export market was worth $1.4 billion. Brazilian orange juice companies use this cash influx to come to the U.S. and buy out Florida's production facilities. Now, that right there, I wouldn't exactly have that as the third thing. I mean, that's kind of important. That's kind of a big thing. We have a Brazilian takeover of Florida's orange juice industry with the production facilities. Because you control the production facilities, you control the growers, you control everyone. Yet this is kind of like, oh, we'll throw this as the third thing. In the United States, orange juice is synonymous with Florida. It's also synonymous with California too, but for whatever reason, Florida is the preferred place if you want your domestic orange juice. It may come to a surprise then to look at the fine print on a bottle of Tropicana or Simply Orange and discover that part of the product isn't from the Sunshine State after all. It's from Brazil. Well, yeah, there's only a few brands that are actually from Florida, and they strictly, I'm trying to remember, oh God, I have family down there, and they drink it. I'm trying to think of which one it is, but it's a big thing down there locally, at least. But I mean, you have a situation where they can't fulfill the demand, so they have to go elsewhere. So they went to Brazil. If anything, you're going to see regionally around Florida orange juice brands that are actually from Florida. I don't know why people say in Oregon or, here in New Hampshire or Maine or Colorado think that they're going to have Florida orange juice these days, especially with the global community and, the global economic community and globalism and such. Orange juice is big business in Brazil. After a series of frosts swept through Florida in the 1960s, devastating orange groves, Brazil met the deficit with its own supply, starting with frozen concentrate orange juice. Then in 2005, citrus greening disease, which had spread throughout the world from China, arrived in Miami. It rendered oranges in affected groves inedible, resulting in a 55% decline in production over the next decade. In response, Florida's orange growers raised OJ prices by nearly $2 per gallon, causing bottlers to turn to cheaper Brazilian OJ. I love how it's the growers' fault here. You gotta love CNBC and Chang Chung, whatever the hell his name is. It's called supply and demand. The demand was high. They were able to increase their prices. And instead of keeping Florida orange juice that these companies are selling in Florida, they decided to put some Florida orange juice in, buy orange juice from Brazil, and still call it Florida orange juice. Let's call it what it is. It's not the grower's fault. It's the orange juice maker's fault, the producer's fault of the OJ. That, the finished product, whether it's Tropicana or Minute Maid or whatever, whether, you know, it's a Coke product or a Pepsi product. They made that decision. I'm a libertarian. I believe in the open market. And I believe that, yeah, they could have went to OJ. I mean, it's kind of a PR nightmare, and I think it's really sleazy and shitty that they're, through implication or however else, leading people to believe that they're buying orange juice from Florida. But they have a right to buy from Brazil. And people have a right to go, screw you, and go buy from a company that's actually produced with Florida oranges. You know, that their product is produced with Florida oranges. Today, more than 50% of all orange juice bottled by major companies like Tropicana is supplied by a Brazilian company, shipped in specialized fruit juice tankers from the port of Santos and São Paulo. And that right there, they have a juice tanker, like oil tankers. I mean, that's a little fucked up. I mean, they got these big pipelines pumping OJ into these things, and they're gonna, you know, go up along the coast and deliver it to the United States. I mean, that's kind of funny if you think about it. That OJ gets treated like oil these days. In 2017, this OJ export market was worth $1.4 billion. Brazilian orange juice companies use this cash influx to come into the U.S. and buy our Florida's production facilities, making Brazil a financial backer of much of America's orange juice. Well, they did more than that. They now control the whole market. They can put Florida orange growers under if they so choose and corner that market by basically wiping out the competition. However, cheaper Brazilian orange juice has some serious costs. One 2015 report from activist organization Supply Chain, I'm assuming with an exclamation point, it's, yeah, okay, called the orange, so from a 2015 report, activist organization Supply Chain called the orange picking industry in Brazil a modern system of slavery. Workers are sometimes unpaid for weeks and trapped in employment contracts that keep them in debt and stuck on the plantation, the report says. Well, if that's the case, how the hell do you think that they were able to undercut the growers in Florida? Slave labor. I wouldn't be surprised if this is going on, because the United States had its fair share of these company towns that kept people in debt, and it happened with the plantations in the South. They switched over to the company store, pay rent types of systems, and they kept a lot of people trapped there. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's going on in Brazil. I mean, there's a lot of shady shit going on in these countries that are south of the United States border. We just don't know about it. The report also alleges that high pesticide use leads to unsafe working conditions and even death. Supply Chain claims the orange juice produced under these conditions ends up in Simply Orange, Tropicana, and Minute Maid bottles. Now, not only that, but the high pesticide use, the pesticides get into the fruit. So you're getting exposed to high levels of pesticide. I mean, it's not like it just sits on the surface. It actually penetrates into the skin of the fruit and beyond that. And they extract, because when they make orange juice, they get help from I'm trying to think of what they're called, but they're the people that create perfumes. Because orange juice is about the perfume. It's about a consistent taste. So they add different flavorings and chemicals like orange oils and orange oil and different things to give it that taste that we all know. And when they're doing that, I mean, they're mixing all these different oranges, and you think about the oil factor because they're adding orange oil. Orange oil comes from the peel. That, to me, is kind of a scary proposition. And I'm thinking, well, thank God I drink Newman's Own lemonade Virgin lemonade. Not beaten, used, and abused lemonade. As opposed to orange juice these days. You know, I have a Coca-Cola addiction. I'm trying to wean myself back a bit. And it also helps to have something that isn't carbonated when I'm recording my videos or the audio for a video. You know, so I'm not burping or whatever all like through the whole time through it. And I'm just thinking right now, yeah, good thing I'm drinking Newman's Own lemonade. And that's not an advertisement for it. Although I do like it, and I would probably back it, you know, back an advertiser, because I'd back something I believe in. But yeah. It's just scary about the pesticides, though. I mean, that isn't even brought up. And it should be. CNBC reached out to several top exporters of Brazilian OJ, Citrosuco, Sutral, and Louis Dreyfus Company, and two major retailers of OJ in the U.S., Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, for comments on the report's claims. Citrosuco told CNBC it does not recognize any working conditions analogous to slavery and its relations, and emphasizes that it does not agree with such practices. The company ensures that it strictly complies with the labor legislation regarding all of its employees, which you have to love how they worded this. What they're getting at is what they're doing down there is legal. These company stores, keeping people in debt, doesn't violate labor laws. It's not technically slavery because they get paid, and you should just shut the fuck up and mind your own business. Cutral said in a statement to CNBC that it strives to be totally compliant with the labor and environmental laws wherever it operates. All of our more than 18,000 workers earn salaries above minimum wage by law, have weekly rest days, receive robust training, and are provided with appropriate safety equipment. Now, these are the exporters. They're buying oranges from the plantations or whatever you want to call them. They don't work for these people. That's on top of the fact of what Citrosco said, which they might own some of these plantations, because you look at how theirs is worded. That's how it comes across. You look at Cutral, or however you say that, I think they just buy from them, and they're like, well, our own workers, they make more than minimum wage, and they have weekly rest days, but what about the actual people at the plantations? That was what was specifically asked. All right, and then Louis Dreyfus Company did not respond to CNBC's request for comment. Coca-Cola, which owns Simply Orange and Minute Maid, has not responded to CNBC's request for comment, but the company was quoted in the supply chain report as saying that it does not tolerate the practices documented in the study. Although Coca-Cola regularly audits and controls the juice companies and the plantations they own directly, this does not include subcontractors. And there should be a stipulation in there to be able to make sure certain standards are met with their subcontractors. There really should be. PepsiCo, which owns Tropicana, did not respond to CNBC's request for comment. And now, I love it. This is one reason why I did this video. They wait till the very end, and they try to link the whole tariff situation and trade war to it's going to fuck the orange producers. With absolutely no proof. It's complete speculation. They're ignoring the fact that every other fucking country has tariffs against the United States, and the United States decides to put a tariff on another country, and all of a sudden we're supposedly assholes and shitbags, and we're fucking with trade, and we're screwing free trade. There is no free trade. We want fair trade. Recently, President Donald Trump's tariffs and trade war have provoked the EU, Canada, and China to impose an import tax on U.S. orange juice. While American exporters of OJ have fallen 60%, in the last 5 years, tariffs from some of its largest trading partners could kill America's export industry, increase reliance on Brazil, and raise OJ prices for Americans, which this is complete bullshit. And here's why. Where do I start with this? those tariffs on American orange juice. Right now, we have a situation with what happened with those incidents they were talking about with the disease that came from China and frosts and things like that. The orange industry in Florida is at a point where it's still trying to rebuild. Those incidents that messed with their ability to produce larger quantities of oranges are why the exports have fallen 60% in the last 5 years. Because, I mean, if you've got diseased oranges and you have a need to fill demand in your own country, that takes precedence. So that's a factor to that, a very big one. And these tariffs aren't going to kill America's export industry, because right off the bat, people buy Florida oranges because they are perceived, and this is internationally too, are perceived as some of the best oranges out there, whether it's to eat or for juice. I mean, California, they're more eating oranges, but I mean, you tend to see more, like, on the note of the eating oranges coming from California. But you have a situation where they need to rebuild their own industry domestically, and this isn't going to hurt them in the long run. But you're trying to make it sound like it's going to. It's not. What's going to happen is they're going to rebuild. They're going to be able to produce oranges again, to the point of where they're competitive. And I'm sure Brazil, these companies will do what they can to try to drive the growers under, which is what you should be looking at on the note of what's going to kill America's orange industry, whether it's exports or what. But I love how you say America's export industry. Like, you're talking about the industry as a whole. You have to slip that in at the very end. Like, this is going to fuck us up. Dude, you're some Keynesian cocksucker. All right? Shut the fuck up. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. We have more leverage than the other countries do. And if they piss us off, we can produce it ourselves. And maybe Americans, on the note of, say, supporting Americans, would be willing to pay a little bit more on their wanting orange juice, on purchasing it. I know I would. I mean, hell, I buy Newman's Own lemonade. Shit ain't cheap. It's like $2.40 at Walmart. I think that's what I paid for it. It's like $2.50 for a half gallon or whatever size it is. So, I mean, people are willing to pay. I could get, Minute Maid high fructose corn syrup shit, or I can buy this, or I could buy the sickeningly sweet, even though it's got sugar in it, simply lemonade, which is not something I'm a fan of. And I'm glad I haven't become a fan of it, seeing stuff like this. But, I mean, Newman's profits go to charity, too, on top of that. So I don't mind paying more. And I'm sure people would, like I said with OJ. Anyway, I've covered this well enough. I'm just going to leave things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video, when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.